First and only on Fox tonight, another major drug bust related to fentanyl, this time in West Houston.
New research shows how Mexican cartels mass produce fentanyl with chemicals that are sourced in China.
For years, they appeared completely untouchable. A wealthy Chinese billionaire couple living inside a massive Texas estate surrounded by luxury vehicles, political connections, charity galas, and a business empire worth billions of dollars. On television, they were celebrated as successful immigrants rebuilding communities and investing in the future of America. Their mansion looked more like a private resort than anything connected to crime. Security cameras covered nearly every inch of the property, and backup power systems were reportedly capable of keeping the entire estate running for weeks at a time. Everything looked polished, legal, and carefully managed. But before sunrise one morning, FBI and ICE agents forced their way through a reinforced steel door hidden beneath the mansion, and what they discovered underground shocked even experienced federal investigators. Bundles of cash stacked inside coated vaults. More than a ton of narcotics hidden inside refrigeration systems. Encrypted servers moving billions of dollars in real time. Then one sentence from the billionaire completely changed the direction of the investigation. How much of the system did they actually find? If you want the full story behind one of the biggest federal raids in recent years, stay with me until the very end, because this case became even darker the deeper investigators looked. The story started in West Houston, Texas, inside a luxury estate that most people believed belonged to a respected billionaire family. John Yue Chen and his wife Li-Ling Xiao had spent years building the image of success. Their companies operated across several states while investing in shipping networks, medical supply businesses, technology partnerships, and high-end real estate. The public, they looked like the definition of the American dream. They donated millions to healthcare organizations and universities. Politicians attended their charity events, and business leaders publicly praised them. Photos showed the couple standing beside judges, senators, and city officials beneath crystal chandeliers and bright stage lights. Almost nobody could have imagined that federal investigators were quietly building one of the largest criminal cases in Texas history behind the scenes. The estate itself was enormous, covering nearly 18 acres protected by advanced security systems. Surveillance cameras monitored every entrance while solar backup systems allowed the property to operate independently during emergencies. Official records describe the underground structure as a private emergency shelter built to protect valuable assets during disasters. On paper, everything sounded legitimate, but federal investigators were no longer focused on appearances. They were following the money. The first clue looked small enough to ignore. A financial analyst working inside a federal oversight office noticed an unusual inconsistency in shipping records connected to one of Chen's logistics companies. At first, it appeared to be a simple paperwork issue, but once analysts looked deeper, they began finding patterns that made no sense. Massive amounts of money were moving through multiple companies tied to Chen Global Holdings. $8 million labeled as consulting payments, $12 million listed as shipping expenses, warehouse maintenance fees moving through layered accounts. Individually, each transaction looked legal, but together they formed something much larger and far more dangerous. Within just 30 months, investigators discovered that more than $7 billion had moved through the network. Then another warning sign appeared. DEA agents noticed a sharp increase in synthetic opioid seizures tied to cargo routes moving through southern Texas. Many of the shipments were labeled as medical equipment or electronic parts, but the weights did not match the official specifications. Some containers weighed thousands of pounds, more than manufacturers claimed they should. One shipment listed as surgical equipment exceeded expected limits by nearly 18,000 pounds. Another shipment described as refrigeration components lacked mandatory import certifications, but still passed inspections without delay. Investigators quickly realized this was not simple smuggling. Someone inside the system appeared to be helping these shipments move through checkpoints without raising alarms. Within 48 hours, the FBI, ICE, and Department of Homeland Security created a joint task force. Their mission was no longer limited to financial crimes because they now believed they were dealing with a massive international trafficking operation hidden behind legitimate businesses. As agents tracked the movement of money, they uncovered a huge web of shell companies spread across Texas, Florida, Nevada, and Delaware. On paper, the businesses had no obvious connection. A medical supplier in Houston, a luxury rental company in Dallas, warehouses outside San Antonio, a technology office registered inside an abandoned building in Nevada. Different names, different owners, and different tax records, yet the money moved through the system in synchronized cycles. Dollars flowed into the network, and within hours those funds were divided into smaller transfers before disappearing into offshore accounts tied to Hong Kong, Macau, Singapore, and the British Virgin Islands. One federal analyst later described the process as watching the heartbeat of a billion-dollar empire. Meanwhile, surveillance teams monitoring the Houston estate noticed increasingly strange activity. Armed guards rotated every 6 hours. Fiber optic communication lines had been installed beneath the property without permits. Trucks arrived after midnight almost every night, yet very little movement was visible above ground. That led investigators to believe the real operation was happening underneath the estate. Then a major breakthrough changed the case entirely. A former private security contractor came forward under federal protection and admitted he had worked inside the property years earlier. According to his testimony, sections of the underground structure were permanently sealed behind biometric steel doors, and even senior staff members were forbidden from entering certain areas. He also claimed technicians regularly transported hardened satellite systems and military-grade encrypted communication equipment into the underground levels. But one detail shocked investigators more than anything else. The estate consumed enough electricity each month to power nearly 220 average homes. For a private residence, that number was almost impossible to explain. 3 days later, Homeland Security technicians conducted thermal imaging surveillance just before sunrise, and what they discovered beneath the mansion immediately escalated the investigation. The underground structure was far larger than official blueprints showed. Public records described the area as a wine cellar and emergency bunker, but underground scans revealed a hidden complex nearly 4 times larger than reported. That discovery shifted the focus toward digital infrastructure. FBI cybercrime units began tracking encrypted data streams connected to Chen Global Holdings. At first, the transmissions looked random, consisting of small encrypted packets routed through systems in Iceland, Panama, and Singapore. But once analysts reconstructed the timing patterns, they noticed something terrifying. Every night between 1:40 a.m. and 3:15 a.m., enormous financial transfers took place. Hundreds of millions of dollars moved through cryptocurrency exchanges and offshore banking systems within minutes. Some transactions existed for less than 90 seconds before disappearing behind encrypted routing systems. One analyst described it as watching a ghost move through the global banking network. Then investigators found the witness who completely changed the case. A former financial systems engineer known only as Witness 47 secretly agreed to cooperate with federal authorities. According to his testimony, the estate contained an isolated communication center operating independently from the public internet. At the center of the underground vault were 3 hardened digital machines protected by biometric locks, backup power systems, and military-grade encryption. Witness 47 claimed those machines managed secret financial ledgers tied to drug payments, offshore accounts, and shipping routes across Texas, Arizona, California, and Florida. Nearby were 11 encrypted satellite phones stored inside steel-lined containers. According to investigators, the phones were used to coordinate international shipments and communicate with logistics partners outside the United States. Then came the detail that stunned federal agents the most. During a major Texas blackout the previous summer, when sections of the banking system temporarily failed, one machine alone reportedly processed more than $480 million in transfers. That meant the network could continue operating even during emergencies. At that point, investigators no longer viewed the mansion as a luxury property. They viewed it as a command center. At 8:12 p.m. the following night, the Department of Justice approved a full-scale federal raid. Before sunrise, more than 640 federal agents were deployed across 4 states. FBI helicopters flew low over the Houston property without searchlights, while armored ICE vehicles sealed nearby roads. DIA teams approached underground entrances as drone units jammed communications surrounding the estate. Federal command feared one thing above everything else. If the network realized the raid had started, billions of dollars in digital evidence could disappear within minutes. At 4:36 a.m., tactical teams breached the mansion. Beneath the first reinforced security door, agents discovered underground vaults filled with vacuum-sealed cash, US dollars, Chinese yuan, and gold certificates packed inside protected storage containers. The first vault alone reportedly contained more than $870 million. Behind another steel door, agents discovered more than 2 tons of narcotics hidden inside industrial refrigeration units, including methamphetamine, synthetic opioids, cocaine, and counterfeit pills prepared for distribution across the country. But the most important room was still ahead. The underground communication vault, the 3 hardened transaction machines, were still operating. Cooling systems roared behind reinforced steel casings, while encrypted financial transfers continued moving data in real time. Nearby, agents recovered all 11 encrypted satellite phones. One device reportedly contained communication logs tied to shipping brokers operating near Los Angeles, Miami, and Puerto Rico. Another contained encrypted schedules matching cargo shipments already under federal investigation. Hours later, John Chen and his wife were escorted out of the estate in handcuffs. Neither resisted arrest. But before entering the armored vehicle, Chen reportedly turned back toward the mansion and asked one chilling question. How much of the system did they actually find? For investigators, that sentence confirmed their worst fear. The network was far larger than the properties already seized. By the end of the weekend, more than 63 individuals were in federal custody, and over $7 billion in assets had been frozen. If you want more real federal crime stories explained step by step like this, subscribe right now and turn on notifications. Also tell me in the comments what shocked you the most: the underground vaults, the billions of dollars, or the fact that the entire operation allegedly existed in plain sight for nearly a decade.